Hey, Jeff, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Well, it's witching time. Let's get going. Welcome. Today is December 6, 2022. It's a Tuesday. It's noon, and we're here for a special city council meeting. I'm going to dispense with the call, with the notice to public and the Pledge of Allegiance, and go right to the roll call. If there's a motion that requires any opportunity for discussion, I may have to read that later. Roll call, please.
Hoop. Here. Isom.
Here.
Kell.
Here.
Lottie-Hoff.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Very good. We have a quorum, and what is our first, and what is our motion today?
Motion to reconsider Resolution 2022-336 of support for Project 1 and Project 2 of the City of Marshalltown applications for Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Funding for infill for sale housing.
Floor is open for a motion.
So moved, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Lottie-Hoff.
Yes.
Schneider.
No.
Thompson.
No.
Walker.
No.
Hoop.
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Kell.
Yes.
Okay, that failed because this motion requires a vote of 5 people.
Your Honor, parliamentary inquiry, please.
Okay.
Since the whole purpose of this meeting was this motion and everything after that is predicated on this motion passing, I'm asking for a parliamentary inquiry as to should this meeting be adjourned immediately, because nothing will be germane to anything that's been posted under open meeting laws.
Well, because it's a public meeting, I'd have to wait and see what the next motion might be, whether suggested by staff or any counselor, before I would know if it was germane to what has been published or not. So I don't intend to give you a parliamentary ruling on it quite yet. I hope that answered your question.
Your Honor, move to adjourn then.
Is there a second to that motion, if that requires a second?
I would second the motion to adjourn.
Okay. Well, let's call the roll on that one.
Isom.
No.
Kell.
No.
Lottie-Hoff.
No.
Schneider. Schneider.
We lost
Yes.
auditory.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Thompson.
Yes.
Walker.
No.
Hoop.
No.
Okay. That failed. Is there any other germane business to come before the city council meeting before we do adjourn?
Your Honor, may I ask for discussion on taking part of this project forward on what is here?
You may.
Your Honor, in explaining my motion, Ward 1 needs these houses, especially in Ward 1. I am willing to support all projects from 1 through 8 and to take off the 4 lots from 6th Street. So I would make a motion that we move forward with all of Project 1 and 8th North 5th Avenue on Lot 2.
Is that,
Your Honor, may I say something?
you may.
So we don't have that particular motion on the agenda. What we do have is a motion to postpone, which I would not recommend anybody make because there's nothing to postpone presently. But there is a second portion that's on our agenda, which is to present direct staff to present separate resolutions for projects 1 and 2. That would be an applicable motion that we could make based on the open meetings law, and that would be the only motion that I would recommend we make under the open meetings law. The basis for that would be our handbook provision, or I'm sorry, our council manual provision, which the council's adopted, which states explicitly that the rule does not prevent substantively different iterations of the measure from being brought forth at a later meeting of the council. How I interpret that is that we have a portion of the resolution which failed, which is supported by apparently a majority of the council, and another portion of that same resolution which was definitely not. So if we were to separate those two resolutions and bring them, or separate that into a totally different resolution containing only the portion which was not objectionable to the council, that would satisfy our rule. The reason for that is because the original motion would be substantively different from the new one being brought forward, and therefore it would be applicable, it would be allowed under our rule without having to wait until we impanel a whole new council to consider it in the way we would with an ordinance. In the case of an ordinance, you can't consider an ordinance twice once it's failed unless you bring back a substantively different ordinance. And as I read our rule, it's the same way here under a resolution. So the only action I think legally that the council can take at this meeting, given the notice that was provided, is to a proposal to direct staff to separate resolutions for proposed projects 1 and 2 and to bring those forward to a later meeting. And that would satisfy the concern raised by the council member that he wants part of this project, probably project 1, I assume, but not project 2.
Your Honor, who is Pat for the record?
He's our counsel of record.
His name?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm Lynch Dallas City Attorney. Normally it's Steve Leidinger, but I'm filling in for him today.
So I could not take one project off of project 2 and add it to project 1. Is that correct?
Well, I guess it depends on how those projects were bid, which would be a separate issue. What I understand, though, is the resolution itself contains a portion. There's 2 different projects. One project is supported, the other one is not. So I don't know if all the elements are necessary in project 1 to gain the majority of council support, but that would be one way to go about getting it passed if that's what you want to do.
Your Honor, could I make a comment?
You may.
So the reason that the projects were set up the way they were was because if you had a number of units exceeding 7, then you were going to be subject to Davis-Bacon rules. And so project 1 was set up to be a project of 7, and project 2 was less than 7 based on what was there.
Do you have staff recommend? There was no second to the motion yet, so the floor is still open for a motion that might be germane.
I would make a motion that the city staff prepare a resolution on project 1.
Is there a second to that motion?
Can you repeat? Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, it might help to actually have more direction to staff in that motion to get a second. And so what I'm wondering is if either our city council or our staff can make that recommendation.
I think the language we would be looking for that would still be in line with the motion that is in item number 2 would be a motion to postpone consideration until the December 12th regular meeting and to on a resolution for only project 1. And I would leave it up to the city attorney to determine if that is okay language with him.
Is that acceptable to you, Mike, as the one making that motion?
Yes.
Okay. I understand what the motion is now. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion on this one. Up here.
Your Honor, I'd like to say something if I could.
You certainly could.
Sure. So I guess I don't understand the legal meaning of, how is this different? It's the exact same language that we voted down in the previous meeting. So how is that substantially different legally?
Oh, it's substantially different because all of the objectionable language of the original motion is being removed. You have to, that's an interesting point, and I would expect someone to ask that question. But I think what we have here is we can't forget that they were welded together in the original resolution. What killed the original resolution was Project 2, as I understand it. There was not a majority support for that notion.
Correct. And I mean, that's
So
what
what
we're
we're bringing
determine.
forward now is just Project 1, which is, and that resolution would be substantively different, radically so, than the first combined resolution. So under our rule, that would be a substantively different iteration of the measure that was defeated. And so under our rule, that would be permitted.
And that was
Even
my-
though the part of it that we're keeping didn't change, all of the objectionable parts of the original resolution have been removed. So if we considered them both separately, right, two separate resolutions and one had died, that'd be it. We'd be done. But, or at least on the one that died, we would be done. But since we combined them the first time, the only reason it died is because a massive portion of that was objectionable to a majority of the council. Now we have a substantially different iteration coming forward, which does not contain any of the objectionable portions.
Your Honor.
My problem with that, Your Honor, if I could go. Sorry, Gary, I can't read the room here.
Yeah, Jeff, you still have the floor.
Well, my objection was I think I could make a good argument that those two motions were put together on purpose because one was a rotten apple, and it was tried to be pushed through like that. So it seems like we're getting run around twice.
Can I make a clarification?
You may.
Just to be very clear, there was no staff intention in tying those two together to try and get them both through. Marty Wymore wrote a resolution for the other projects that were on a separate resolution of support, and I had not written mine. And when he submitted that, he had all three on one of them rather than three separate resolutions. So therefore, I modeled my resolution after his resolution to basically be the same, where because it was being approved by developer, it was a resolution by developer, not by project.
Is that satisfactory to you, Jeff, or do you have anything else to add?
No, not right now.
Okay. Does any other counselor?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I disagree with the attorney, with Pat, to just single out part of the objectionable comments made by the council and the public that was here. My position was the city should not be a developer, which included all lots. So to say that my argument was just against the 6th Street lots is false. And if we go back and play the minutes or look at the video, look at the minutes, several members of the public also disagreed with the city being a developer. So to just say the only reason that it failed was because of the 6th Street lots is not true. So now we're getting back to this gray area of what is a difference, what makes this legal to split when the council as a whole voted this down for multiple reasons.
Okay, thank you. Any other counselor wish to weigh in before I read the proviso and let the public speak?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I'm going to reiterate that Ward 1 will take every single one of those houses and $250,000 houses that we can get. I think we would be passing up a good opportunity. A lot of these lots have been sitting empty for a long time. I totally understand what Gary is saying and what he's reiterating here tonight about the city not being a developer. I really do get that, but there's lots down in Ward 1 that have been sitting for 20 years. And if somebody was going to develop them, they would have been developed. So I think I'm all in favor of the Project 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other counselor wish to comment? At this time, then, I'll call for public comment after reading the proviso that the mayor and council welcome comments from the public during discussion of the agenda items. You have to step to the mic, state your name and address for the record, limit your time to 3 minutes or less, unless I give you more time than that. Speak clearly and direct your comments to the mayor and council as a whole and not to any counselor specifically. It's at my discretion and the council's discretion to respond to specific questions and comments or to have staff respond during the meeting. The microphone is open for the public comments.
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. I spoke against the city being a developer. I also spoke about the block grant, and Mr. Kell, I did not, from my understanding of what Ms. Kinzer said, these are $175,000 houses, not $250,000 houses. The $100,000 grant from the community goes back into the city's coffers after we've spent the $100 and whatever to build it and sell it. So it's a $175,000 house. You may live in Ward 1 and have vacant lots. I also live in Ward 4 and in a census tract which is deemed by the federal government to be the lowest income in the area, and it's an opportunity zone because of that. And this council stopped me from rehabbing a property when I offered to give a $10,000 bond so you could let the insurance pay the owner of the property which had a fire go. Mr. Hoop asked why, and Ms. Kinzer told him it was attorney-client privilege and that she would tell them afterwards. So the city has conflicting goals. You don't want certain people to be developers, but you want to be a developer yourself. This is getting really annoying.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak cogently?
Lyle Heineman, 2804 Arnold Drive. At the beginning of all this, I was not in favor of the city being developer, and I'm still not. And I'm going to stay that way. And I hope you change your mind on developing these properties, because I think there's other things that this city needs to be involved in than developing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Roll call.
Schneider,
No.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff.
Yes.
Very good. That did carry. And we are adjourned at 12:18 p.m.